I feel like this is actually the first scandal of the Obama administration that's really going to stick with them politically, because for about a year, Republicans have been trying to make hay out of the Benghazi story, and I think it's a story that only really conservative base voters care about. But this is a story of the IRS behaving quite badly in a way that people all across the political spectrum can relate to.
Sarah, this is my favorite quote in the zoo. I'm not an expert at this, but this is Dana Milbank in the Washington Post on the Attorney General. On and on. Holder went, I don't know. I would not want to reveal what I know. I don't know why that didn't happen. I know nothing. Sounds like one of my meetings. So I'm not in a position really to answer. Amazing.
And this was part of the line, Josh Barro. 2 congressional hearings are set. They're certainly going to be fiery. Are you expecting us to learn any information about who knew what and who was involved?
I'm in the IRS scandal.
Yeah.
Because Holder must have been talking about the AP, but I think we learned a lot in the Inspector General's report that came out of the IRS. Where we know that this activity originated in an IRS office in Cincinnati, which is where you have the division that approves nonprofit groups, and then that filtered up to Washington. There was actually an order that came down from Washington saying, no, stop doing this. This is politically biased. And then the Cincinnati employees changed the criteria back, and people in Washington didn't know for months. So there's clear incompetence within the IRS. There was malfeasance on the part of these various employees. One thing that Republicans are going to try to do is link it back to the White House, to Treasury, and based on what we've seen so far, they're probably not going to be able to do that. I think this is a story of a mismanaged IRS, and I think what you can blame the president for is the IRS has now been without a commissioner for 6 months. The guy who resigned yesterday was the acting commissioner.
Right.
He still hasn't appointed a replacement. The IRS is going to need new leadership, and so he really does need to make a nomination there.
I wonder what all of this whole fiasco says about money and power in Washington and the way that the whole system works.
Well, I think that I think what this says about how the system works is that the bureaucracy is extremely complicated and is trying to enforce rules that nobody fully understands. One of the findings in the Inspector General's report is that not only were the IRS employees targeting groups based on their political activity, but they didn't even understand the rules they were supposed to be enforcing about what nonprofit groups could do.
To those of us who just don't want to follow this, we don't want to watch the political shows and all that, is there a linkage here to the emotion of 1972 and 1973? Are there ghosts here from Attorney General Mitchell or Sam Ervin or Howard Baker, or is that not able to link?
I don't think so. I think people might have an emotional link there, but I think, look, this IRS thing was not some grand political strategy. If it was a really dumb grand political strategy, because they're going after these 2-bit conservative groups. It's like the San Fernando Valley Tea Party, the big national groups that actually have political impact.
Don't tell me the Department of Justice and AP and the reporter's response to that is a small idea, whatever anybody believes.
No, I think on the AP story, with the subpoenaing of the phone records of the AP in this story about a leak, yeah, I think people are concerned about surveillance there. But on the other hand, it's not clear that the DOJ actually did something that was legally out of bounds yet. There are various circumstances in criminal investigations where the Department of Justice gets to subpoena phone records, and I think a lot of the reaction has been based on the idea that the AP ought to get special treatment because it's a journalistic outfit. But the practice of protecting sources is an industry practice. It's not something that has an actual legal protection where if the records are subject to subpoena, they can't be subpoenaed because it would identify a source.
On the IRS issue, we can talk about the technicalities all we want, but is this crisis an opportunity to fix something that is broken in the way this bureaucratic system works?
Probably not. Ideally, it should be. One of the reactions that should come out of this is people should say, gee, these rules that we have regarding nonprofits and political activity are both too complicated and badly designed. The real issue with these groups are what's called 501c4 groups. They call them social welfare groups, and what they do is they can lobby and they can do a certain amount of political activity and they don't have to disclose their donors. And so that probably shouldn't be how it's structured. But I don't think we'll get a good fix.
Somehow this is not going away. I think Josh Barro will return with us soon.